Hello, hello, hello. How's everybody today? Glad you're here. Keep following. I love that you comment and like and all that cool stuff. I hope you are advancing and becoming a better guitar player with my videos that are well over 250 videos. It's a lot of videos, YouTube and TikTok. So, today's, intermediate, beginner, advanced. Let's just talk about utilizing that little pinky, okay? Because, a lot of your chords, like we talked about, are just three notes when you're talking about major and minor. But, utilize your pinky and soloing also. As time goes by, you want to utilize all fingers for soloing. But using that little finger can add, different flavors and different qualities and new chords for you to play when you're jamming, when you're writing music, or you just have to play certain songs and you need to know different chord names. So let's talk about that a little bit. So just say with that A open position, okay? We've already talked about, a lot of dominant seventh chords, but if you add that little pinky there on that third fret, E string, there you go. Now you've got four strings down when you're playing five, because you're starting with the A. You're not hitting the E for the A7. And all of a sudden you have an A7. So for a beginner, that's a new chord for you. You got that A, and then you got 7. Some people do want to play that A like this. It gets very difficult to play that E string when you're doing it in that position. If we move up to a B chord, we talked about that you can do just the three strings at the bottom. You can't really play it open. But when you play the B bar chord from that A position that we talked about in a video, what happens when you add your pinky, 5th fret, B string. We talked about it. You might be able to understand it now yourself. But we talked about figuring out how you figure out chords is you go to the scale. Scale of B is, what note are we looking for? Well, this is the E. I'm hoping you're learning the notes on the fretboard. This is the E. So when you're doing your scale, B, C sharp, D sharp, E. Okay, well, E, what's that? Well, B is 1, C sharp is 2, D sharp is 3, E is 4. You have a sus4, a B sus4. Let's move to C. You got a C open chord. We're going to add the little finger to the B string, 3rd fret. That's a D note. Let's figure out what that does to the C major chord. Well, look at that. C, D, 1, 2. The D is a second. So you got a suspended second. That's a new chord for you. You don't need your one digit here, or your first finger, index finger. Now what, can we change it? Can we leave that finger down and then go and use the little finger on your G? What would that be? All right, C, D, E, F, G. That's 5, okay? So, it's just adding a second fifth, correct? Because the C chord is C, E, G. But you have that open G for the C chord when it's open. Okay, and what we talked about before is that fifth I was like thinking of something else. Forget about that. So let's go to the D. You got a D. You're going to add that G there. 1, 2, 3, 4. D, E, F sharp, G. There's a 4. When you put your little finger down for that D chord, you get the sus4. Okay, we're moving along. Say your E chord. If we put the little finger down on your A for the E, the fourth of the E scale is a A. So you have an E suspended 4. If you put that little finger on the 3rd fret B string, now you're at a D. What do you think that is? E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, E. So what did I say? D sharp. Okay, well that's in the scale. If we're utilizing it as a D, before we go back to the E, then that's your 7. All of a sudden you have an E7. Now if we want to put that little finger on the G, on the high E string, well, it don't sound too good, does it? That's because you've got a note here. You're playing G sharp, which is in the scale. If you're playing the G against it, it's just not working very well. But it is, when you get rid of the G and you have an E minor, then you can add that in there as another note if you want to play a full chord, E minor. If you're playing any bar chord now, because the F is pretty much a part of a bar chord, and you add that little finger to the B string, 3rd fret. So what do we have there? That is a D, F, G, A, B flat, C, D. That's a 6. That's the 6th note in the F scale. So you have an F6. That's a new chord for you, possibly. And then if you use a little finger on your E string, okay, 3rd fret, G note, what is that? Okay, well that is F, G, so that's the 2nd of the scale, 2nd note, but when you're playing it up on a high string, it becomes a 9, okay, because then you get past the 7th note, 8th note is the root again, and then after the root, you're either at a 2nd or a 9, okay? So F9 is your little finger when you're playing the F. And then basically that's the same thing for every way when you move up the neck for all your bar chords. If you're going to utilize your little finger on the B string, okay, like we talked before, this is the 6. So wherever it is you're moving your bar chord, say you're up to the 10th fret in the D chord, if you put your little finger now on the 12th fret, B string, you've got a D6, okay? If you move it to the 12th fret, D9. And then it's pretty much the same thing we talked about with the position here when we went to the B. For the 4, That's the same thing moving it up. Say you're, a D. You add that G note. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the D scale. The fourth note is a G. Okay? D suspended 4. If we move the little finger to the E string, D7. Okay? So that, moving up your bar chords all the way up, you've got a 6 and a 9 when you're coming off of the E, the E form of your bar chord, moving it up. And when you're coming up with the A, you have a sus4 and a 7 using your little finger. That's the deal of the day. You may have not known it, or you may use it all the time. But the little finger is important. Put it to work, and you will have new chords that you can play all the time. See you next time. Bye.